We're joined today by Rohit Dadwal. He's in charge of the Mobile Marketing Association for all of Asia. Fantastic. Thank you for joining us here at APMF. First and foremost, what is the Mobile Marketing Association, and what's your kind of mission as an organization here in the region?
So thank you for having me here. Mobile Marketing Association is the global body for helping build all guidelines, best practices for use of mobile as the advertising and marketing medium. We truly believe that mobile is the medium of the future. This is the medium that helps integrate every other medium that has happened in the past, whether it's TV, print, and outdoor or radio. And our objective is really to bring the best practices of marketing and advertising and get them closest to the consumer using mobile as the medium. Our charter is to educate the consumers, educate the brand marketeers, and that is really where our focus is, to help them understand what this medium can provide. This is the medium which helps provide you the closest engagement, the real-time engagement in terms of measurement, and also from an attribution perspective, how the consumers can leverage this and brands can use this medium to get to know their consumers better.
So, you know, we've been talking about digital the last 2 days. You've heard a lot about rewriting, trying new things, but what is the state of mobile marketing like in Southeast Asia or Asia Pacific right now?
So mobile marketing, if you were to look at pure numbers, it's growing at almost 100% year on year.
Wow.
For the last 4 years.
Wow.
If you look at advertising spends, it's growing at that same ratio. If you're looking at the engagement of consumers with different kind of content, with different kind of advertising material, be it on traditional publishers, digital publishers, gaming, video, native, etc., it's all growing at that same pace. I think the future is, as I said earlier in my statement, is really mobile. Mobile helps integrate everything else, so it becomes the channel which the consumers feel far more comfortable delivering value or getting the value being delivered by the brands.
You along with the MMA are trying to facilitate right now as well, is to actually really figure out what is that equivalent to, not necessarily the equivalent, but what's the answer to the GRP offline in the mobile space, right? And it could be different.
I would say we want the industry to step away from looking for alternatives. There is a new measurement, there is a new chapter, and we need to define what we need to write that new chapter. If we start looking for alternatives, we'll still be hung on those old metrics and relate to them as a good or a bad, and I don't think so that's the right approach. We need to rewrite that. We need to make sure that whatever is being discussed keeping the medium in mind and the audience in mind, not historic figures and notions.
So what are the biggest gaps right now among the brands, among the agencies, in order to actually get that ball rolling?
Yeah, I think the gaps are being filled. As MMA, we've done a lot of the work. We've put standards in place. We've put best practices in place. We have a standard for every aspect of mobile advertising and marketing, be it location, be it advertise, be it video, be it native. Whatever there is, we've started to put that. We've put the framework in place. What really needs to happen is everybody to come together and start following that, and then building on top of that. Today, the challenge is people are not following the new metrics or the new standards, and they are starting to work based on what they have felt good or which feels better for them to relate to versus traditional marketing or versus PC. For example, the click-through, CTR. People have started measuring that on TV, on mobile. Is that the right metrics? The audience is different. The medium is different. And we are doing all of those efforts to help educate the industry, help put the framework for the industry. All of these practices, all of these standards are already there. The challenge, and it's an interesting challenge actually, because all of them change every 6 months. And to answer your second question, ROI is a factor of what you actually are trying to deliver. If it's a marketing message, it's a brand building message. The ROI is brand awareness, it's not sales. And I think because digital has the ability to measure everything, whether it's sales or whether it's footfall, people tend to confuse what the core of the message is, what the marketeer's demand is versus what the result is. And therefore, the ROI as a metrics sometimes is confusing.
What was the catalyst to all this hyper growth that you've seen in the industry over the last 4 years, and what was it? What was that tipping point of all the change?
I would say the tipping point is not really within the industry; it's outside the industry. It's the factors that have influenced the growth of consumption, and I would say that tipping point is the pricing structure of data. The telecom data pricing structure has actually helped elevate the consumption, which has elevated more subscriptions, more advertising, everything else. But within the industry, it is the need for the consumers to get the information, the news, the sports, entertainment at the tip of their fingertips.
So the ability, and the increased access to information, the cost of information being being a bit less expensive than
I would say the cost of accessibility to that information and the plethora of information which is now available has changed the dynamics.
So, what do you feel is important for brands or brand directors, marketing directors, to understand, or how should they approach this beast we call mobile marketing in order to actually start ticking some of those boxes and getting things right, if you will?
It's a very good question. Is there a right answer for it? I don't think so. For every brand, there has to be a different answer. But I would say the one thing that everybody can do is not to treat mobile as a tick mark in their marketing strategy. In fact, I would go the other extreme. Mobile has to be the core of your marketing strategy. If you're thinking of mobile, if you're thinking of your marketing strategy, you need to put mobile in the center and build around it. Whether you're building a TV around it, whether you're building influencers around it, whether you're building video around it, you have to start with mobile at the core and then see how every other medium can engage and interact. And if that thinking is something that the brand marketeers or marketeers in general can adapt and make core to their business, I think that will help not only their business objectives, but also help the delivery of the message in a far better manner.
That's interesting. What was one of these trends that that you guys were convinced about, but the market actually just went in a totally different direction?
Let me give you a trend that we were convinced of, and it became larger than what we even thought. In 2012, when WeChat first launched, we actually recognized WeChat as the marketing platform of the future. We awarded it that category in 2012. Today, WeChat, for example, in China, is the only platform. It's the ecosystem by itself. The entire mobile internet ecosystem lives on WeChat. We got that right.
Wow, that's incredible.
We got that right 5 years back. What we haven't got right, I think, is the whole Internet of Things right now. And I think it's partly due to the fact that it is such a broad category that it's very difficult to put all of them in one piece.
Well, and the way that I look at the Internet of Things is that functionally it all makes a lot of sense, but are people able to, and by people in this case it's the mass market, are they ready to adapt to those types of behaviors, right? One of the things that people talk about now quite a bit is voice, right? And you've seen Amazon and Google and everybody creating products around it. But particularly I'm looking at emerging markets here. There's still people who haven't connected to the internet, and we're already talking about using voice in order to control things around the internet. So it's interesting that you say the Internet of Things is such a convoluted place, because once again, nobody's really defined what it is. They've just kind of said device connected, not phone, computer, tablet, Internet of Things.
But it's interesting, if you see, if you go back 25 years, we've gone a full circle. We started with voice, we went to messaging, we went to internet, we've gone back to messaging as the core system of internet, and now we are going back to voice. And there are few reasons for it. Voice, 2017, my prediction was voice is, by 2020, voice will drive 80% of the traffic, at least in Asia, not the world, but in Asia. But there are very dominant characteristics behind that. Education. Voice doesn't need education. It goes across cultural boundaries. It caters to the needs of the people at the time that they want. It goes across dialects and language barriers. And I think as we go forward, when we are going to reach the next billion users who have all these challenges, voice is the only medium. There's no other medium. Yes, voice is connected to the internet. It is. Is it connected to TV? Is it connected to print? I think those are the evolutions of different aspects, but voice will be the key factor as we move forward, because it also helps consumers to get comfortable with the messaging that they want to access, they want to have access to, which not every print and other media can provide. I think voice honestly, in next 2 to 3 years, especially in Asia, especially in the emerging markets in Asia, voice, because it cuts across also the cultural dynamics and the dialects, will be a very key driver. A lot of people who are now coming onto the internet don't have education. How do you expect them to even access Compass news? They cannot type, right? But they can ask, what's the news from a publisher like Compass?
Yeah.
It will be served.